The badge felt heavier than usual as Lauren Morgan stood outside the iron gate, its rusty hinges creaking faintly in the late afternoon breeze. The cracked paint on the old wooden door peeled in thin strips, revealing faded blue beneath. A familiar scent, damp earth mixed with the sharp tang of motor oil, drifted from the cracked driveway where a single wilted rose lay half buried in dust. It had been years since she set foot here. Years since the night she was dragged away, wrists raw and bruised, the stifling darkness swallowing her cries. 12 years old. A child sold for money. $1 million, the price stamped on paper that still burned behind her eyelids. She closed her eyes, feeling the cold metal of the badge pressed against her chest, a steady weight anchoring her heart. No longer a scared girl trembling in shadows. No longer a name erased. Now, she was Officer Lauren Morgan. And this was home. The wind shifted, carrying whispers from the cracked window panes, memories of laughter and betrayal twisting in the air. Somewhere inside, behind these faded walls, the truth waited. Waiting for her to come back and finally claim it. Morning light seeped softly through the blinds, casting thin stripes across Lauren's small apartment. She stirred awake to the steady hum of the city, distant sirens, early birdsong, and the muted rumble of cars rolling down the avenue. The worn wooden floor beneath her feet was cold, but familiar. Her routine was quiet, deliberate. First, the kettle's hiss as water boiled, filling the room with warmth. 2 sugar cubes slid into her chipped mug, dissolving slowly into dark coffee, bitter with a hint of cinnamon. She cradled the cup, fingers wrapped tight, savoring the calm before the day unfurled. Her space was modest but neat. A single photo hung on the wall, Lauren in crisp uniform, saluting with the sharp edge of discipline she carried like armor. No pictures from childhood, none existed that she wanted to remember. The small bookshelf held worn paperbacks on law, psychology, and resilience. A faded baseball cap from her father's favorite team sat atop the dresser. She dressed quickly, pulling on her badge and holster, symbols heavier than metal. The mirror caught her gaze, green eyes steady but shadowed with years of unshed pain, jaw set with quiet determination. There was strength in the lines around her mouth, a strength born of survival. At the precinct, the sterile hum of fluorescent lights greeted her. Colleagues nodded but rarely smiled. To them, she was focused, some whispered cold. She preferred clarity, the ability to keep emotion in check, to think sharp and fast when the stakes were life and death. Lauren's job was more than a career, it was her rebirth. Every case, every patrol, was a step away from the girl who was sold, and closer to the woman who reclaimed her name. Between shifts, she often found herself walking to a nearby park, the same one she had wandered as a child. Rusted swings swayed in the breeze, and the laughter of children echoed faintly, bittersweet reminders that life moved on, even if hers had been paused. Lauren's earliest memory of her father was his laugh, deep, warm, a sound that filled their small house like sunlight. He was a man who worked with calloused hands and soft eyes, always carrying the weight of the world quietly. But when she was 7, her world shifted. Her mother, gentle and kind, grew sick and passed away in the stillness of a cold winter night. At 12, the final blow came. Her father died in what the police called a tragic accident, a crash on a lonely road miles from town. The funeral was heavy, suffused with whispered condolences and polite tears. Lauren remembered her stepmother's white dress, carefully pressed, her smile too sharp, eyes calculating. She held Lauren's hand tightly, but it felt like a leash. Days later, promises of relatives coming to care for her never materialized. Instead, 2 strangers arrived. Lauren's toy bracelet snapped as she was pushed into a dark van. She screamed, but no one heard. They took her from city to city, a commodity with a price tag, moved through the cold corridors of mansions and empty rooms, between strangers with blank eyes. The world grew smaller, colder. But Lauren watched, remembered every name, every face, every lie. At 16, desperation fueled her escape. She ran barefoot through unfamiliar streets until she reached a police station. At first, no one believed the story of a lost girl sold by the woman she called stepmom. But one officer's quiet kindness gave her a lifeline. Safe in a shelter, Lauren found school and structure. She studied law enforcement, not for the rules, but to break the chains that had bound her. Her stepmother disappeared from records, changing names, addresses, leaving only shadows behind. Yet Lauren never stopped searching. Until last week, when a familiar name appeared on a property complaint. The house where she grew up, still owned by the woman who sold her. Lauren sat behind the glass wall at the police station, heart pounding as a woman entered. Same regal posture. Same cold smile. But the name tag read Farah Khan. She approached the front desk, her voice smooth but sharp. "Someone damaged my garden wall," she said. "These people have no respect for private property." Lauren's breath caught as Farah slid documents across the counter, deeds, ownership papers. The house was under her name. Her house. Lauren's eyes met Farah's. No flicker of recognition. Just a smug, practiced calm. Farah left, her heels clicking against the floor. Lauren's hands clenched into fists, stomach twisting in knots. That night, she pored over property records, court filings, alias checks. Every detail matched. It was the same woman who sold her. Now she lived on land built by her father's sweat. The voice echoed in her mind. "You'll have a better life." Lauren sat alone, dinner untouched, the ache of betrayal fresh and raw. Sleep refused her. She opened an old drawer rarely touched, fingers brushing over a water-stained diary. Her mother's handwriting curled across the page, fragile and tender. Lauren flipped to the last page. "Lauren is brave. One day, she will make the world safer." The words settled inside her like a promise. She wandered to the park where she played as a child, the swings rested, grass wild and unkempt. Children's laughter drifted on the wind, but her heart was heavy with roots tangled in pain. She paced the quiet path, replaying memories, her father's smile, her mother's lullabies, the cold van ride. Her mind sharpened into resolve. A plan formed, expose Farah's true identity. Prove the fraud on the property. Reclaim what was hers. This was far from over. Lauren began with paperwork. She found an old mentor, retired from the force, who remembered her father's case, a suspicious crash never properly investigated. She tracked down a witness who recalled a fight the night her father died, angry words, threats, and a shadow of betrayal. Farah had filed property claims the same week, signatures suspicious, the notary on the documents long dead. But no one wanted to reopen a decade-old case. Undeterred, Lauren filed an anonymous complaint with the Internal Affairs Unit, attaching embassy records, police reports, and photos. She reached out to a trusted journalist, handing over every piece of evidence. Daughter of decorated officer returns to claim justice. The article stirred whispers, pressure mounting. Farah returned to the precinct, furious and desperate. "Someone is trying to ruin me," she snapped. "I want the police to act." Farah still didn't know Lauren's true identity. That was Lauren's advantage. The town hall meeting was packed, neighbors, lawyers, reporters. Farah sat at the front, surrounded by her legal team, her confidence brittle beneath the weight of suspicion. Lauren stepped onto the podium, a folder of evidence clutched in hand. She began with a single sentence from her mother's diary, "Lauren is brave." Then came the documents, birth certificate, school records, embassy files proving Lauren's identity. Next, the property deeds, forged signatures, a missing notary stamp. Lauren played a recording, Farah's voice on a broker's call, negotiating the sale of Lauren herself. $1 million. No papers. Just get it done. Gasps swept through the room. Lauren looked at Farah. "I am Lauren. I was 12 when you sold me." Farah's face drained of color. Hands trembled. She rose, then sank back down in silence. Investigations followed swiftly: fraud, illegal adoption, property theft. Charges were filed. Lauren didn't watch the news. She didn't need to. Justice wasn't about punishment. It was about being seen, reclaiming her story. She returned once more to the house, this time without her badge, just as a woman who had found her way home. The jasmine still climbed the gate, fragrant in the evening air. She plucked a flower, held it close. At home, she picked up a paintbrush, clumsy strokes capturing raw emotion on canvas. She brewed tea, 2 sugar cubes dissolved slowly, warmth filling her fingers, her chest, her soul. The past isn't a ghost to fear. It's a shadow that follows until you turn and face it. Lauren learned revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about revelation, shining light on the dark places others hoped would stay hidden. She hadn't broken Farah. She'd exposed her. And in doing so, she rebuilt herself, stronger, whole, unshakable. Some truths don't need shouting. They only need telling. Now, she wore her name like armor. Lauren. Daughter. Survivor. Officer. And no one could take that away again.